Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Good morning, NFC East, on this happy Thursday morning. Yeah, I still can't believe it's Thursday, Tony DeShields. This week, this year in the NFL has gone by so fast, and I don't know if that's because the division is a lot better than I thought it was going to be, or because the Eagles are 13-2 or whatever, but it just seems like this whole NFL season, I really can't believe we're almost to New Year's at this point.
Yeah, man, my birthday's in a couple of days, so it's
happy birthday.
It's definitely flying by faster than I thought it would. But this time of year always does. When you think about how Thanksgiving and Christmas are stacked up on top of each other, the next thing you know, New Year's Eve, which is my birthday. So, things are flying by, and plus, when you're winning a lot, it kind of makes the whole process a little boring. You know what I mean? It's like it's hard to pick holes in something that seems like it's working on so many different fronts. But then, the Eagles, they suffered their first loss, then the second loss, and now all of a sudden the sky is falling. Jeff, all of a sudden the sky is falling, and no one recognizes this team anymore. And is it time to sound the alarm?
Why are
everyone is
people
jumping
panicking?
off a cliff right now?
Why are people panicking? I don't understand panicking over a 13-2 football team.
You know why? You know what it is? I can tell you exactly what it is, Jeff. You see, and I'm pretty sure you know this. Philadelphia Eagles fan culture, it's like we've had stretches where we were so close, but something always messed it up. Be it an injury, be it a bad decision by the head coach, be it a random turnover that never happens throughout the season. It's like Philadelphia Eagles fans are always prepared for that one shoe to drop. I was telling you off air that I'm one of those nervous Eagles fans. I enter every game with a certain level of anxiety, and the anxiety doesn't dissipate until I know for a fact we got the W. I go so hard for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? I feel everything. So I know for a fact most of these fans feel the same, and hearing that Lane Johnson got hurt, hearing that your starting quarterback is dealing with a shoulder injury on his throwing shoulder right now. Charles Gardner-Johnson's practice window hasn't really opened yet. You look around the league and you see other teams that are starting to get hot right now, and they're getting into a flow, and the defense is starting to show these weird leaky holes. I understand why fans always wait for their other shoe to drop, because it usually does, but I think it's a bit too early for us to start jumping ship at this point. We're already locked in. Just buckle in and go along for the ride, because 13-2 doesn't come along very often.
Well, no, it's only come along, twice in franchise history. 2004, they started 13-2. And again, that team easily could have started 14-1. They had everything clinched. It was kind of meaningless when they played the Rams, then they played the Bengals at the end of the year. So that team ended up 13-3. This, the 17 team obviously started 13-2, and then they kind of just said, okay, remember when everybody panicked after a 6-0 loss in a meaningless game? Everybody's like, they're going to be one and done. They're going to be one and done in the playoffs, which I don't understand I'm not going to name names, but I'm not going to understand some logic here. Where in God's green earth does anybody think the Eagles are going to be one and done in the playoffs? I've seen teams that look like they're one and done plenty of times. This year, if I had to pick what team is going to be one and done, the most obvious choice of the good teams, it's probably Minnesota. But again, I wouldn't want to play the Minnesota Vikings in a close game. I'd want to play the Minnesota Vikings, but they've shown they can win a close game. It's you got to get to them early and you got to get to them often, and then they're out of it. So maybe that's why I want to play them. But the Eagles are showing me no signs that whoever they end up playing, whether it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Carolina Panthers, Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants, whoever that 7th seed is, Green Bay, there's going to be so many variables in the NFC. And I'll say this. I'm just going to go off history here. Every time the Eagles are the 1 seed, they at least go to a conference title game.
That's a good point. And having a 1 seed is one of the more important things to have. One of the most important things to have going into this playoffs. Also having your health, right? And the theme of this week has kind of been health or home field. If Gardner Minshew struggles in this New Orleans game and he can't pull it off, all of a sudden now you're going into week 18, kind of in limbo. Should you put Jalen Hurts in? Should you give Gardner Minshew one more shot? It's a very interesting position to be in. But I don't think there's any other teams I'd rather play at this point to try to get the number 1 seed. I mean, obviously you could find other teams that are probably worse, but you can do a lot better than the New York Giants and the New Orleans Saints. You know what I mean? Like,
doesn't it feel like, though, no matter what happens Sunday, Jalen Hurts plays week 18 in some way, shape, or form?
That's my thing. I personally think he should play regardless of the outcome, because I would like him to have some game time reps, even if he's only playing for a couple series or even the first quarter. I would love to have him out there at minimum for a series. I understand a lot of people feel like you shouldn't have him out there because Lane Johnson is not going to be there, but you can have him out there for a series or two, and I'm pretty sure he won't sustain not one single hit. Just let him get some reps in. That's my mindset. It's
such a unique position now, right? Because we're used to the 17-week season where they're in a 17-week season, everything would be on the line for Philadelphia. Honestly, I take that back. Everything would have been clinched. So you're going in there like, okay, say this was like the old week 17. Okay, well, no, you wouldn't need to play Jalen Hurts because he's going to play in, 3-4 weeks? Like, that's happened before with quarterbacks. But now it's 5 weeks if he doesn't play at all in the rest of the regular season. Then, yeah, the rest is good, but you have to wonder if he's going to start out that divisional playoff game rusty or not. And again, it's one of those storylines that you don't want, but it's a good problem to have. My thing is, I'm like you, Tone. Like, even if they clinch, I think the Eagles brass would be wise enough to get him out there, like you said, for a series or two or a quarter or a half, just to have the first team in there and say, hey, you know what? Injuries are part of the game. They happen. It's just a matter of when, unfortunately. And I don't know, Tone. Like, I think I'm in a better shape of mind than most fans when it comes to them going into the playoffs. Everyone's like, well, they're hurt going to the play. I'm like, are they?
Everyone is.
Yeah, everybody is, right?
See, here's the thing. There are teams that have way more injuries. It's just the fact that our injuries are so noticeable, like a Lane Johnson injury or a C.J. Gardner-Johnson, right? But outside of that, I mean, Jalen Hurts the shoulder, but that's not really that serious.
Well, to a Cowboys fan, they're not noticeable. I noticed on the Bird app yesterday, they were like, oh, you only lost your nickel corner and your defensive tackle. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Our nickel corner and defensive tackle are pretty important to this defense, unlike yours.
Exactly, right? So losing to mathematics is huge because they don't really – I don't trust Josiah Scott. I really don't. But, again –
do you give a reason to? I mean, Darius Slay definitely don't trust him.
Oh, man. So it's just like this team is not the only team in the league dealing with significant injuries. Let's just put it that way, Jeff.
No, yeah. I mean, look, the 49ers had tons of injuries early in the year, and they're still kind of banged up. But they plugged through it, and they're on an 8-game winning streak now. By the way, Tone, did you happen to catch – I know you haven't been on Twitter, but I feel like everybody good in the NFC rallied together this week with just one tweet. The 49ers have heard the same thing as the Eagles. They don't play anybody, play somebody good. Well, they have the best record in the NFL against playoff teams, 4-1, current playoff teams. The Eagles are second at 5-2, tied with the Chiefs. The Vikings are fourth at 4-2. So they all kind of rallied together this week and said, hold on. I thought we don't play anybody. Well, you had to play somebody if you got 12 wins, right? You would think.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. I hate that whole narrative anyway. You didn't play anybody. Because
you know who does that narrative? The team that loses the bad teams.
Yeah, that part. It's such a strange argument because to say you don't play anybody is just not factual. I don't care what anyone says. The way this NFL has been set up the past few years, anybody can get beat by anybody. I know they lost the game, but we saw Houston push the Chiefs to overtime. These players, the other teams get paid too.
Yeah, they almost beat Dallas. They've been playing well the last 3 games for their standards and their talent level. But you're right, it's the NFL. Like, we've seen weird things happen every single week now.
Like, let's be real. Like, every team can't be the Chiefs. Every team cannot be the Chiefs. Every team is not the Bills or the Eagles, or every team is not that. It's like people have this narrative where it's like, if you're not on that level, then you're nobody. And it's like, that's not the case at all. There are plenty of teams who are kind of like mid-tier who can catch any of those teams slipping if those other teams don't bring their A game. This is the NFL.
The Chiefs lost to the Colts this year.
That's what I'm saying.
It happens. The Bills lost to the Jets. Like, the Bills went on that like midseason slump, and people are like, sky's falling. This team isn't really any good, and they haven't lost since. It's the good teams always find a way to win, and they find a way to win big. Like, I don't care. I saw, no disrespect to Elliott Shore Parks here, but the Eagles are gonna beat the Saints by a lot. I'm like, I'm sorry, what playoff committee are they trying to impress here? This is the NFL. I don't care if they win by 1 or 50.
Yeah.
I don't understand like that logic in football. Oh, you only beat this team by this much. I'm like, no, this isn't college football here. You want to play that game? Go watch the bureaucrats over in college football, where the SEC rules the land and the Big Ten is second. And then you can argue over who beats who by how much. In the NFL, it's just win the game. I'm sure if the Tennessee Titans beat the Dallas Cowboys tonight, I don't think that's going to happen, by the way. Not a long shot. But if they were, I don't think Tennessee cares if they beat them by 1, if they beat them by 20. That's definitely not going to happen. By the way, I kind of want to get into that quick. Tennessee is making a wise decision resting people because this game means nothing to them.
Yeah, Tennessee, they seem like a team that's kind of accepted their fate. They're kind of falling off a cliff a little bit. Tannehill.
Everything's still in their grasp, though, week 18. All they got to do is win, beat the Jaguars week 18. They win the division.
That's a good point. It's important to know your situation in the NFL. And these final 2 weeks are going to decide a lot for a lot of these teams. Obviously, there are some teams who are already eliminated, but there are still a handful of teams who are still in the mix if anything happens to fall their way. This is going to be a really interesting game tonight, too. I don't think the Cowboys lose. I think the Cowboys actually win pretty convincingly. But the Tennessee Titans, they're a team that's they make it ugly. They make it very ugly, and it's a Thursday night game. It's a short week. Dallas is coming off a really emotional win. Beating the Eagles on Christmas Eve. Their defense is looking porous. So you never know what may happen. But I still think the Cowboys win.
They'll look good tonight because they're facing Malik Willis and probably not Derrick Henry, because even if he's battling like a minor injury, there's no reason to play Derrick Henry tonight at all.
Yeah. I agree.
They're resting 4 defensive starters. And by the way, Dallas, if they're wise, they'd win because they got to keep the pressure on Philadelphia, even though it's the longest of long shots. Like, if the Eagles win one of their last 2 games, it doesn't matter. But if you're Dallas, you still want to keep the pressure on them.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? The Philadelphia Eagles are in a position that forces Dallas and Minnesota to try to keep pace as much as they can because they still feel like they can get this number 1 seed. And they're all still in contention for it. Minnesota almost lost to the Giants. That's another point. Like, and it doesn't matter who you play. Anybody can get touched in this league. So it's going to be imperative for the Philadelphia Eagles to continue to keep the pressure on. They're coming off a loss. I think that typically they come back from losses with a win. They've shown that. Has it been pretty? Not necessarily. But they have a chance to bounce back against the Saints. And the Cowboys have the Titans. So that's a team that they got to pay attention to.
Yeah, they do. And here's the thing, too, if you're Dallas. You have to, obviously you have to win no matter what, or you hand the Eagles the NFC East title. And the Eagles have backed into the division titles before. It's happened in their history. But also, you're Dallas. You want to have momentum going in the playoffs because do you really want to get Washington in the playoffs? Like, because that's who you play week 18. I don't think they wanted to do that. I personally think Dallas is going to win out and end up what? So they would be 13-4. I mean, that just shows you if the Eagles win the NFC East, how impressive that division was the entire season.
Yeah, no longer the NFC least. And as of right now, all 4 teams are in the playoffs.
Yeah, it might end up
very plausible.
It might end up that way unless Carson Wentz pulls the Carson Wentz. By the way, he's a star in Washington now. I don't know if anybody saw that.
Yeah, let's talk about that, Jeff. You know, as a matter of fact, let's do this. Let's take a break.
Yeah, we got an hour, Tone.
Yeah, exactly. We got an hour. Let's take a break. Hopefully, our girl Alexa Ross can come, but we're still not entirely sure about that. So, you guys, you're locked in on Good Morning NFC East with Jeff Kerr. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II. Keep it locked.
Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for a December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Rams starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Game Show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post Game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
And we're back here on Good Morning NFC East. Tone, I'm glad you mentioned Carson Wentz before the break. We'll get to him in a second. But there was a topic I wanted to touch on while we're waiting for Alexa Ross here today. Derek Carr is no longer going to be the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. I kind of foreshadowed this when I did my one thing we learned from each team. I thought Derek Carr was playing his last games with the Raiders. You could just tell by the body language and the dysfunction of that organization that he wasn't coming back. And I really, really hate what the Raiders did to him, basically making him the scapegoat for their failures when, since he's been there, they've had the worst defense in the NFL. And I'm not saying Derek Carr's a superstar quarterback here, but there are some teams, and there are some teams in this division that would love to have Derek Carr. There are a lot of teams in the NFL that love to have Derek Carr. When you got Trace McSorley, Jared Stidham, Nick Foles. Sorry, Nick Foles. But there are a lot of teams starting with bad quarterbacks right now. Davis Mills. It's, the list goes on and on. Now Derek Carr's out of a job. I don't know, Tone. Do you feel like we might see Derek Carr in maybe a Commanders uniform next year, maybe a Giants uniform?
Yeah, you really can't, put it past, the NFL to make that happen, right? But as far as his situation currently with the Las Vegas Raiders, it's a shame. And Derek Carr is a good quarterback. Is he a great quarterback? I wouldn't necessarily say that, but he's a good quarterback. He's a reliable quarterback, and I don't think it's random he's having his worst year as one of his worst years as a starter. His worst year from a completion percentage standpoint since his rookie year, where he completed 58% of his passes. This year he's only completing 60% of his passes. And this, I don't think it's random that when Jeff McDaniel got there, all of a sudden he's not playing his best football. I've never liked Jeff McDaniel as a head coach hire. We've all known what happened in Denver. We know what he did to the Colts as far as kind of backing out in that deal.
The guy drafted Tim Tebow at one point.
And it's just, in my opinion, I don't think it's a coincidence. I actually thought that it made more sense for those guys to extend or bring back their interim head coach from last year to help rather than get them to the playoffs, because that team responded to them, or that team responded to him. Also, another thing, I vividly remember, Derek Carr saying during that time that if they don't bring back the interim, I forget what his name was.
Rich Bisaccia. He's special teams coach on the Packers now. Exactly.
I vividly remember Derek Carr saying if they don't bring him back, he's going to have to, reevaluate his options. And obviously, he allowed this season to play out. And I actually think the decision may be a bit mutual. It's one of those things that he doesn't see the writing on the wall. When it comes to Jeff McDaniel, like he doesn't see the silver lining in this thing. He's going to run this into the ground.
Did you have a problem with when Josh McDaniels and brass? I think it was higher than Josh McDaniels, honestly. The benching Derek Carr, that he kind of just packed his bags and went home. Did you have a problem with that?
Have a problem with Derek Carr?
Basically said, I don't want to be a distraction. I basically don't want to be around. I'm not going to be here the rest of the year.
I don't have a problem with it because I'm pretty sure, knowing Derek Carr and the way he does business, the way he handles himself in the public eye, he strikes me as someone who has a strong pulse of his locker room. He strikes me as someone who has a good feel for, his veterans, and a guy who's pretty transparent with his teammates. I don't think he makes that decision without talking to his team. And I don't think any of his teammates think he's abandoning ship. So, I don't have a problem with I don't have a problem with the way he did it, because just based off his track record, he strikes me as a stand-up guy that, that doesn't shy away from conflict if he needs to handle it.
But by the way, you may be onto something there with the whole Derek Carr reevaluating his options in the offseason, because the Raiders did give him a contract where he's due $40 million in guaranteed money starting next year. Now, of course, he has no trade clause in there, but you remember how they kept him happy. They got him Davante Adams, which is one of his best friends. So why would you trade for Davante Adams to basically just blow it up after a year when it's not Derek Carr's fault Josh McDaniels can't coach, which is what I want to go to here, why I think he could end up in the NFC East. even if with how bad Derek Carr has been this year, don't you think the Commanders have 10 wins if Derek Carr is their quarterback this year?
The Commanders have always been a team that's kind of like been stuck in limbo because of the quarterback position. If you put a competent quarterback in Washington, they can easily be a double-digit win team, like perennially, you know? And not just Derek Carr is going to be available. You got to think, like, there's a good chance you might see Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo in the NFC East.
Yeah, well, by the way, which one of those two ends up as the bridge quarterback for the Colts? You know one of them's going to Indianapolis.
Oh, man, that's a tough one.
I'll tell you who I would pay. I'd pay Derek Carr.
Yeah. Matter of fact, let me ask you this. If you put Derek Carr on the 49ers, how good are they?
How good are the 49ers is Derek Carr? Derek Carr made the Pro Bowl every year. I know that. He made the Pro Bowl with the Raiders. I'll tell you what. I would love to see Derek Carr in that offense. There are a lot of teams I'd love to see Derek Carr. Derek Carr reminds me of that guy. Like, if you put him in a confident organization with a confident system, we could argue he's a top 10 quarterback in this league. He's not, but I can make the argument for I've always liked Derek Carr. I've never got a chance to actually interview the guy, but I've heard a lot of good things about him over the years. And I definitely heard from quarterbacks around the league that, Derek Carr can sling a football. Derek Carr is, as bright as they come when it comes to throwing the football around. So you're right. If you put Derek Carr, by the way, Derek Carr ain't going to be on the 49ers because I think the 49ers might have their quarterback.
Okay, Brock Purdy.
They're not paying him anything. That's the best part. So they can spend in other areas of the roster, get even better.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I have a question, shifting gears a little bit. This is more so Eagle-centric, right? I've been thinking, Miles Sanders is a player who has kind of had a rough past couple weeks, fumbling the ball.
Definitely a rough 2 weeks.
Hasn't really been as effective as we would like. And, it's since Jalen Hurts hasn't been there, he hasn't had the same effect on the running game. And I've been telling people, I said, look, Miles Sanders, he's talented. I love Miles Sanders. He's a really good running back. But we have to put into perspective all the pieces around him that allow him to be who he is. I've always talked about the fact that any running back can average 4 yards behind his offensive line. I firmly
he's
believe
averaged,
that.
but he's
averaged 5.
He's
right.
averaged
So
5.
right. So he's so that's the window, right? That's the buffer. He's good enough to give you an additional yard, right? But again, for me, that begs the question: how valuable is he in particular?
Especially in the big running back market. Do you think you can do better? Or do you think you can
or do you think you can get the same production for someone cheaper?
Yeah, draft a guy and sign a guy, and then you're deeper at the position. That's the other piece to the puzzle.
Right. And you can't, and Eagles fans don't want to have that conversation because they marry themselves to players, right? Once they like a guy, he can do no wrong.
And Miles Sanders is a guy I would keep next year.
I like Miles Sanders, but it's all about the money he would command. Yeah. And he's had a career year. He's going. This is the NFL. Running backs don't get too many cracks at the money tree.
But by the way, what if I doubt this is happening? I'm just throwing a number out there. What if it's 3 years, $21 million? Would you keep him?
3 years, $21 million, $7 million a year.
I mean, that's a lot.
I see. It's not even about what I keep him, right? I don't think Howie Roseman wants to pay a running back.
But I don't think he does here. And I think with the plethora of draft picks they have, they could find another one. They found Miles Sanders in the second round. Why can't they find another one?
I don't see any incentive. Well, let me not say incentive. I don't see why they feel like they should be married to him. Right? Like, again, Miles Sanders is the best running back in the room. That's a fact. There's no question. But in this NFL, 17 games, rushing for 1,000 yards is not the hardest thing to do.
But how many have done it this year?
Say that again?
How many have done it this year? I'm going to look this up on you.
That's a good point.
I'm going to look this up on you right now.
That's a really
Because
good point.
I don't think we've had many. I know we've had Derrick Henry. I know we had Miles Sanders. I know we had Josh Jacobs.
So there's Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Saquon, Miles, Dalvin Cook, Justin Fields.
So
He's a quarterback.
8 guys.
Travis Etienne. So 7 running backs.
Yeah, 7 guys have done it.
And Tony Pollard is 12 yards away from doing it. Christian McCaffrey is 17 yards from doing it. Well, 27.
Which is impressive. Christian McCaffrey's only that little away from doing it, considering he had to acclimate himself to a new system and was brutally underused in Carolina.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But all right, not too many running backs rush for 1,000 yards, but more. There are more teams. There are more teams who are running back by committee. These are bell cow running backs we're talking about here, like Josh Jacobs. He's a 3-down running back. Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook. These guys are used significantly more, right?
By the way, quick fantasy story for you. I know no one cares about anybody's fantasy team, but I have 3 of those top 7 running backs this year, and I'm out.
So how much does it really attribute to winning to having the best running back, right? Again, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they didn't have the best running backs. They had one of the best combinations.
Well, they had Blunt, they had Clement, and Ajayi was basically the missing piece. Like, they were already good running the football when they got Jay Ajayi.
Yeah. Like being a good running team is more on the offensive line than the running back. And the Eagles have been putting a lot of resources into the offensive line, into the offensive line position, into that room. You know, I just don't think I want my organization spending big money on a running back especially if we don't have to. This is like, you can find a combination of running backs that are serviceable to get the job done, and the offensive line pretty much does most of the heavy lifting.
Well, here's the other problem. You got to pay Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You got to pay Javon Hargrave. You got to pay James Bradbury if you choose to do that, which, again, that's another off-season topic. But, again, like, you got to pay a lot of people. Do you really want to do this for Miles Sanders when, look, the Buffalo Bills got James Cook in, the 4th round? And he's a pretty productive running back. He doesn't get the ball enough, but he catch passes out of the backfield, and he's effective. James Cook looks like he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher at some point in time in his career. Probably in Buffalo. But you can find these guys later.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Tyler Algier.
The Seahawks found Kenneth Walker in the 2nd round.
Kenneth Walker was a beast in college, too. I don't know how he fell. There's going to be
a lot of teams don't draft running backs high.
Yeah, exactly. Like Bijan Robinson, everybody's talking about how high he's going to go. I'm like, not as high as you think, because teams don't draft running backs high. So who knows? Maybe the Eagles have a mid-first round pick. Howie Roseman would never do it, but just saying.
Yeah, you know, and look, I don't want to beat the dead horse. I don't want to pile on Miles Sanders. You know, he's having a great year.
No, this isn't even the Miles Sanders thing. This is more, will Howie Roseman pay Miles Sanders? Miles Sanders is going to get paid by
He's
someone.
having a great year. Someone's going to pay him, right? But it's not going to happen here. It's just not. And fans need to be okay with that. They need to understand that this offensive line is what matters more than anything. And we got so many other pieces. You pay them. Those guys you pay, because they're the ones that's moving the line. They make it easy for the running back. Like I said, any running back can average 4 to 5 yards a carry on this offense. I'm sorry, I strongly believe that. Maybe not.
You don't have to believe it. The proof's in the pudding.
Straight like that, Jeff. So, you know, again, and you said it. They have so many other people to pay. That's coming up. T.J. Edwards, James Bradbury, if they decide to keep him. C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
I'll give you one. I know he'll probably get paid this offseason too, because he's really good. How would Tony Pollard look on this team?
That would be interesting, because Tony Pollard has he should have a lot of treads on the tires, just because, you know, he hasn't, you know,
just because Dallas is stupid.
Yeah, that Dallas is funny, man. I'll be honest. I thought Dallas would trade Ezekiel Elliott by now.
They can't. Who are they trading him for? I wouldn't take him.
That's a good point too. How many years left on that contract with Ezekiel Elliott?
Well, I think he can get out of it after this year. I think this is like the first year where there's like no guarantees, and it's not like a significant cap hit, but they still got, I think it's 3 years.
Yeah, like the thing is though, you don't want to be the Cowboys, right? They marry themselves to players. You know, if they pay them, they're like, oh, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
They overpay Average guys.
What's the term? What's the term now? Tone mid. Is that the term now? Mid. He's mid.
He's mid. Yeah, he's mid.
He's mid. That's what Zeke is. He's mid now. He's not Zeke anymore. He's
a really good red zone running back. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I take him in the red zone any day of the week. Man, I'll tell you what. I'll give the Cowboys credit. I fear them when they get in the red zone because they got Zeke and Tony Pollard. You don't know who's getting the ball.
Yeah, you really don't. So it's going to be interesting to find out how the Eagles handle this offseason. And I know we're going to get hurt ourselves. We still have the playoffs to go through, so on and so forth. But these are conversations that need to be had.
No, it is because you want to know if you could bring everybody back on this team next year. Obviously, that's not the case. I mean, this team is going to look significantly different next year, but you got to trust the people in place that they're still going to be really good. Because, oh, by the way, the quarterback's getting paid. I hate to tell people that.
Quarterback's going to get paid.
You got a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He better get paid.
I agree with you 100% because if he doesn't get paid here, someone else will. And you don't want to have a lame duck quarterback going into the final year of his contract.
There's one guy I do not want to see in this division next year, and there's a chance he might be, and that's Lamar.
I think Lamar's going to Miami.
You think he's going to Miami? Yeah, I could see. You know what? I'd love to see him just stay in Baltimore, but why would you want to stay there if they're not helping you? They're giving him Deshaun Jackson and Sammy Watkins to throw to. That would have been great 7 years ago.
Yeah, who's the best wide receiver he's ever played with? What, Hollywood Brown?
Hollywood Brown, probably.
And Hollywood Brown is, I don't know. I wouldn't even consider him a top 15 wide receiver.
He's been kind of disappointing in Arizona, but he's been hurt too.
He's a really small guy. To think that
what is it with the Ravens and receivers? They were like Eagles before this year with receivers. Just can't get anybody.
Well, I think as much as I hate for this to probably be true, I don't know if wide receivers feel like they can really get theirs in Baltimore. Unless you're the
T.O. didn't even want to go there. You remember that? You remember all that shenanigans before he actually got the Philly, or were you too young?
I might have been too young to remember the whole, that offseason, those offseason shenanigans. Yeah. That was At that point, I wasn't paying attention to off seasons that closely.
Let's put it this way to make a long story short. T.O. and his agent forgot to basically file for free agency. He complained about, then he forgot, then they missed the deadline. So basically the only way he was going out of there is if he was getting traded. They traded him to Baltimore. So I'm like, well, there goes that pipe dream of T.O. becoming an Eagle. And T.O. was pretty much like, nah.
I'm not going to Baltimore.
I ain't going there. So basically he got his way to Philadelphia, and the Eagles traded a 5th round pick and Brandon White. I think Baltimore was actually involved in the trade. I think Baltimore got the draft pick. It's crazy. Yeah. His rights were traded to Baltimore or something like that. It was really good.
That's strange. It was a strange NFL back then.
Oh, the NFL was really I'll tell you what, Tone. Free agency in the 90s was insane because it was a new thing. And you just had guys switching teams all the time. Then they were signing 1-year deals. Dion, 1 year is a 49er, next year he's a Cowboy. Eric Allen was on the Saints. It was just a weird time. Ricky Waters signed with the Eagles, it was a big deal. William Fuller signed with the Eagles, it was a big deal. You got these guys to fill it. Irving Fryer came, and everybody's like, Irving Fryer? He's old, and he was good with the Eagles. Just a weird time.
Do you think, because I've been thinking about this playoff run coming up, and there's a lot of pressure on everybody involved, but there's a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts to try to get rid of that, to kind of get rid of that Tampa Bay demon that's been on his back, because a lot of people still hold that against him.
Well, those people are stupid, by the way.
How so?
Okay, this is where I think people are stupid and where Twitter can be stupid. How can you get on a guy like Justin Herbert for not making the playoffs and slamming him? And then you got a guy like Jalen Hurts who makes the playoffs and you want to slam him for one bad game at 23 years old. I don't understand. Did anybody rationally think the Eagles, who weren't even supposed to be in the playoffs last year, were going to beat Tampa? No. They were. He was going up against Tom Brady. They were on the road. Tampa Bay was clearly better than Philadelphia. Yeah, Hurts played terrible. I didn't expect him to play well. I was hoping he played better that game, but I kind of knew the result going into that. It was more of, okay, enjoy the ride because you're happy they're in. It was kind of like the Phillies this year, only the Phillies had a lot more talent and got to the World Series. The Eagles weren't going to the Super Bowl last year. So everybody wants to pile on Jalen Hurts for losing a playoff game to Tom Brady and that defense at 23 years old when I can name so many issues with that game. Like, we're judging Jalen Hurts, who's 24 now off one playoff start. Are you kidding me? I know people did that with Lamar, too. And I'm like, okay, here's the difference, though. Lamar's team went 14-2 when they were the number 1 seed. Oh, and they were blowing everybody out of the water when it happened. Jalen Hurts was not supposed to win that playoff game last year. So I don't know what your irrational expectations were.
Yeah. A lot of people say, yeah, it's not the fact that they lost, how bad he looked in the loss. He looked like he was out of depth.
Everybody looked bad. The defense looked horrible.
It's a fact.
Yeah, you want to get on Jonathan Gannon to point to the playoff loss, not some game against Dallas.
Yeah, I agree with you. But this is going to be interesting because Jalen Hurts has an opportunity of lifetime right now, and like you said, this team is going to look very differently next year. And you got to strike while the iron is hot. This window, this path doesn't get any more clearer for Jalen Hurts and Philadelphia Eagles.
No, it doesn't, and that's the thing, right? Yeah, if you want to say he needs to exercise the playoff demons this year, if he loses this year, like in the divisional round, yes, that's bad because they're supposed to win now. Yeah, right. The expectation has changed. Like McNabb's first year, they were home against Tampa, but everybody thought Tampa was the better team. The equalizer was it was freaking freezing in Philadelphia. I was there. It was cold. So that was the difference. Last year, they weren't beating Tampa. They weren't. And you're kidding yourselves if you thought they could. Or you're just lying to yourself. This year, it's a heck of a lot different. It's the same way with, remember Josh Allen's first playoff appearance? Like, okay, they were the 2 seed. They got a home win. But then they went to, and they got to the AFC Championship game because they had 2 home games. But Josh Allen never started the playoffs on the road. Joe Burrow never started the playoffs on the road. Patrick Mahomes has never played a road playoff game. He wouldn't know what a road playoff game. Jalen Hurts has more road playoff starts than Patrick Mahomes. That's how crazy that is. So, again, it's different when you're at home. It's different when you're supposed to win. So, I just don't understand, like, the whole Jalen Hurts went 15 of 31, whatever. I'm like, okay, Steven Nelson looked terrible in that game last year. Defensive line couldn't get a sack on Tom Brady, essentially. That's a game that you're Nick Sirianni, you use as fuel for the next year. And they did. And also, can we get over the narrative that the Eagles defense struggles against good quarterbacks? Because
I was just talking to John about that. Every team in the NFL struggles against a good quarterback.
Yeah, like, everybody. There are no good quarterbacks in the NFL. There's like 4 of them.
I don't understand the logic because, and especially the way the rules are set up now, good offense beats good defense all the time.
All the time.
Like it's set up like that. It's like a great offense will beat a great defense. The league is literally set up for the offense to prevail over the defense. So when people say, "Oh yeah, the Eagles can't do their thing, can't handle business against good quarterbacks," most teams can't. Because you can't touch these guys. It's a weird narrative.
I hate to tell people this, but Kirk Cousins is a pretty good quarterback. They seem to shut him down. Everybody goes, "Oh, it's Kirk Cousins." I'm like, Kirk Cousins has the most game-winning drives in football in a season ever now. So he's doing something right. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. Yeah, Dak had a good game against them. Congrats. He always has a good game against the NFC East. But yeah, you're right. Like, oh, he got torched by Patrick Mahomes. I'm like, who doesn't get torched by Patrick Mahomes? Who shuts down Patrick Mahomes? Who shuts down Josh Allen? Who shuts down Joe Burrow? I'm sure teams are looking at this now. Who shuts down Jalen Hurts?
Guys like that, you don't shut them down. Your job and your goal should be to make things a little more difficult.
Yeah,
not shut them down. If you spend too much time trying to shut them down, you're going to lose that game.
Exactly. So let's look at a potential path here in the playoffs. Say Dallas wins, everything's strong. You're going to play Dallas. So, yeah, you're going to have to win in a shootout. Oh, and by the way, you beat them, you're probably going to play San Francisco or Minnesota in the title game. You're probably going to have to win a shootout there too. I mean, that's the thing. It's so weird, right? Because I love what Brock Purdy's doing. I love this 49ers team. But doesn't it feel like a little safer playing the 49ers knowing it's Brock Purdy, even though he's playing really well?
Yeah, I don't think Brock Purdy is built for a shootout.
Or is he the next Tom Brady and we're just not noticing it?
Well, he has a lot to do before we even start to consider him that. Tom Brady has set a precedent. I mean, sure, everyone wants to say they found the guy, right? They found that gem in the 6th or 7th round, so on and so forth. He's playing well, and let's see how he looks where teams have significantly more film on him. Now teams are starting to establish trends, and Kyle Shanahan is a hell of a schemer. So he's putting him in very, very favorable positions. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, he has to throw the ball. I want to give credit where credit is due, but at the same time, Kyle Shanahan's making it very easy. Very easy.
Even when Brock Purdy throws an interception, it's like, okay, was that even his fault? Like, a ball was tipped off a receiver's hands and Washington just happened to catch it.
Yeah, I agree. So, look, let's take our final break of the show, and we're going to go into these final 10 minutes. And I think I have a question for you, Jeff. I'm going to save it for the final 10 minutes, all right?
So, it works for me, Tom.
You guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East. Make sure you guys continue to smash that like button. Continue to stay engaged on JAKIB Sports. He's Jeff Kerr. I'm your guy, Tone. This show's the second. Don't move, you guys. We'll be right back.
Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Rams starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
And we're back for our final segment here on Good Morning NFC East. By the way, Tone, I have to stand corrected here. I had a brain fart at 7:45 in the morning. Josh Allen's first playoff game was not at home. He played against Houston in that disastrous game where they lost to the Texans.
I'm surprised I didn't correct you on that.
No, you should have. You should have. I thought about.
I remember that game because that was the game where I think that was the game where Deshaun Watson got kicked in the face and he delivered that dime. Is that game?
Yeah, that's that game. And remember, like Allen was like he ran for 100 yards, but he's like god awful, and everybody was ready to write him off. And I'm like, oh, hold on, let's pump the brakes. I think Josh Allen turned out okay for playing bad in his first playoff game, don't you?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Listen,
yeah, I thought about it. I'm like,
wait a minute. From the losses, you learn more from the losses.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. What am I saying? Josh Allen played in the playoffs before 2020. It's you know what it is. It was so long ago, you forget about it.
And that was a wild card. That was a wild card game, wasn't it?
It was a wild card game. Yeah, it was a 4:30 game. You know what? I actually remember what I was doing that day. That was the one playoff game I missed that I had to watch on replay. I'm a big racing fan, so I was kind of doing that. I was actually at a live indoor race. And I remember, like, I was listening to the game on, headsets because, you know how loud it gets when you watch a race, right? Especially live.
I can imagine.
Oh, yeah. So I had that. And so I had that, and I was listening to the game while watching the race. And then when I got home, I watched the game like, oh, crap. Josh Allen really did play terrible. But I was always a believer.
Like Jalen Hurts, it was his first time in the playoffs.
On the road.
Sometimes I don't like how people discuss the quarterback position. This is trial and error. These guys are babies. And they want these guys to be Superman so early in their careers.
Because Patrick Mahomes did it.
And you see how many there are of him, right? Not many.
There's one of him.
There's one of him. And Joe Burrow, people forget Joe Burrow is actually one of the older guys. He played all 4 years in college. He's older than Hurts. So it's like, you got to put it in perspective. Joe Burrow, he got hurt his first year, second year, made it to a Super Bowl. He's making it, the guys like that make it seem like, oh, these guys better than that. It's so much pressure on these organizations to get it done in the first in the first few years of a rookie contract, because they know once you got to pay these guys, it changes everything. And I understand the logic, but it just comes to a point in time where you got to just understand that, look, there's going to be some growing pains with this thing. Oh,
there is. Like, for example, Trevor Lawrence is on his way to making his first playoff start. It's crazy, right? You would never thought that after the Urban Meyer disaster and going this year is supposed to be rebuilding year for Jacksonville, but the AFC South sucks and they're taking advantage of it. By the way, that team's going to get better. So, I mean, are we going to judge Trevor Lawrence if he loses to, let's just say, Joe Burrow in his first playoff game? Are we? No.
The national media will find a way to crucify him for it. And
I'm part of the national media, and I'm going to tell you this: the national media does not watch the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm telling you, this is what gets me mad. The national media does not watch the league they cover, and I'm part of it. I watch every game. I'm nuts. I'm nuts. I will tell you firsthand if a team sucks or if they're one and done in the playoffs, which is why I disagree with someone who works here that the Eagles are not a one and done playoff team.
I don't think they're going to be one and done. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many points you beat them by, you beat them. And we all know in 2017, the Atlanta Falcons matchup, it was looking real sketchy, but they beat them. And sometimes you just need that one win to just push that first domino.
Or in the Eagles' case, a ball that bounced off Keanu Neal's helmet and landed in the Torrey Smith.
That play lives in my memory. Like,
Torrey Smith talks about that a lot too.
Because I don't think people understand how the Eagles were one play away numerous times. They were one play away from not going on that miracle run.
Oh, yeah. Like the ball just – I mean, look, everybody wants to slam Jalen Mills for that coverage on Julio. I'm like, what else is he supposed to do? And that fourth goal. By the way, I actually thought he played the ball well. He definitely didn't interfere with him.
Right. Good thing Julio Jones is not really a red zone guy.
Yeah, no, he's not. He never was. And it's like, even when I was rewatching the Eagles-Dallas game this week, the catch, was it Gallup? Off Marcus Epps? Like, Marcus Epps was covering him. He basically did everything but get his hand up. And it was hard to, because he was trying to tackle Gallup as soon as he corralled the ball, trying to knock it out. And I think it was Gallup who caught that touch. I don't even remember anymore. But that, you know the play I'm talking about, the 3rd and goal where Dak scrambled to his right and just threw like a dart.
A
dart. I'm trying to remember.
That was Gallup. I think
I think it was Gallup, where only Gallup could catch it. Like,
yeah, I remember.
I actually said right when it happened, all right, Dak, good stuff. Like, that's good, Dak.
Yeah, that was a good ball. That was a good ball. Look, I think Dak is a good quarterback. Is he great? No.
Is he a top 10? No, but he's top 12. He's definitely top 15.
I've always had Dak teetering at that 10, 11 spot.
Which is fine.
Which is fine.
Like, you can win with him. I'm not saying you can't. It's just the playoff narrative's there. He's been to the playoffs now. What is he, 1-3 in the playoffs now?
No, yeah, there's definitely a narrative with that. And, it comes a point, I know we're running low on time, but my final point is, there comes a moment where we have to stop using stats to define a quarterback. When you get to a certain point in your career, your stats are completely not a part of the conversation anymore. It's strictly about your playoff success. What have you done when you had the opportunities? And Dak Prescott is a quarterback who hasn't really done the most with his opportunities.
I believe his playoff win is against the Lions. Am I wrong on that?
Hey, listen, man, don't sleep on the Lions, man.
Oh, no, you know what it is? It's against the Seahawks. That's who it is. Remember, they beat Russ in that year where the Seahawks weren't that good.
I remember that. They did beat the Seahawks, and then they lost to the Rams the following week.
They didn't lose the Rams. They got smoked by the Rams. Like, the final score didn't indicate it, but if you watch that game, they got smoked.
Oh, man. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Jeff?
You know what, Tone? It's funny. I love talking football for an hour with you, man. It's always a blast, and I love having you on the show. That's all I got to say for today, man. It's a shame Alexa couldn't join us today. I'm going to have to get her on next week, because this week would have been great, because Nick Foles, Colts, they're playing the Giants. She can get her Eagles talk in, but we'll get her back for the playoffs. She always said she'd come on anytime, so. Yeah,
definitely a shame, but like you said, we'll get her back. But
we also got to remember, right now it's 6:58 in the morning for her, so she would have had to come on 6:20.
Exactly, yeah. So can't really kill her for that. But Jeff, I appreciate you as always for sharing your platform with me, giving me space and opportunity to pontificate. So you guys have been locked in on Good Morning NFC East. Again, make sure you smash that like button, you guys. The show is nothing without the people. Continue to smash that like button. Continue to stay engaged.
We are for the people, Tone.
Always have been, always will be. Next up, we have the Burge 365 guys with Jody Mack and John McMullen. You guys, this has been Good Morning NFC East with Jeff Kerr. And I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.